sits in this town and looks around and looks at the terrain we have available, and you wonder, why can't this be like Kingdom? Why can't it be like Slate Valley? And we really kind of were thinking that route of this should be a destination place to go mountain biking. Over the years since we've been doing it, and I'll speak personally on this, I came back to this, and it comes down to the community around here. And it's about how do you make mountain biking accessible to the community? And kind of what I landed on was build trails that build community. And what that means to me is that trails are accessible. It's not private trails. There are public trails here that you can ride. Ultimately, I want it to be rideable from the town. Like, I think that in a town like this, you should be able to ride out and ride trails from here. That makes it accessible to anybody who has a bike. The next is make it easy to learn to ride. Like, it's a very difficult sport to learn if you come into it blind. And what Meredith has done, what Tim's done, and others in coaching has made it a lot more accessible for people. So a big part is making it easy to learn. And then finally, making bikes available. It's a super cost prohibitive sport, but with stuff like the bike library that Meredith has done, what CMOS has done with the bike swap, we're really trying to make it where anybody that wants to ride can get a bike, can get the training they need to ride, and has trails they can ride. And to me, this is where I've landed with what I think we should be building here, but this is just my view on it. But I think it really is, how do we best serve this community? And then if other people want to come in and ride the trails, that's great, but that's not the goal in my mind. And I'm curious, like, if what anybody thinks on that. That's kind of where I've landed. If, like, I think it's a good mission, but it's kind of a mission I created on my own. With help from Meredith, Chris in the back there, we've kind of worked on this together, and now Tim is involved in it quite a bit as well. All right, good. That's our mission then. Build trails that build community. Good job, everybody! Woo! All right, we're off to a good start. All right, 0 to 1. I work in tech, technology, software, and there's this concept of 0 to 1. That's basically there's nothing, and you have to create something in that space. And I really view from 2019 to now as that. It's how do we take mountain biking in Bristol from 0 to 1? So what that meant was we started off 2019 with a bike night, April 3rd, and I'll look at the map around here. So here's Bristol. Good thing I have my pointer. And what we all thought, and I think a lot of people have kind of had the same thought, is there's a lot here. We could do a loop around Hogback. We could go up to the pond, over to Watershed and back. The problem is that we only had one place to build, which was New Leaf. And we are extremely lucky to have had New Leaf Organics, for those who know, a magnificent farm where there's also mountain biking. Jill, pictured down here, has been the most accommodating and patient and just helpful person we could ever have hoped for as a landowner. Everybody here should go buy stuff at the farm stand after they're riding or before they're riding. They've just been excellent. And one thing I learned through this is you need a good landowner that is going to be a partner in this. And we couldn't have asked for a better partner than Jill and New Leaf Organics. We now need to find some more partners like that in the community so we can expand out. This was our first day hiking it. I believe Skimmer, you were there. This is known as First Beer Rock because it was when we went there, we had a beer together. We looked at the land. We did this Strava, which looks awful on here, but actually isn't that much different than what the trails look like today. And then we started building. So our approach was basically, we had limited space. I think it ends up being probably 50 to 60 acres of buildable land, except for a lot of that is cliff, as anybody that's been up there knows. Our goal was trails that flow. I like flow trails quite a bit, and there aren't a lot of those on this side of the mountain. They're mostly on the other side, but that also challenge. And I think if you've ridden up there, our trails are pretty challenging. Maximize the terrain, both what we put into it, the space we use, but then if it was rocky terrain, leave it rocky. make it challenging. So the uphill is very challenging and rocky. As we came down, we really tried to find features we could build off of, and just basically build really big berms was essentially all we wanted to do. And we did that. And then build incrementally and thoughtfully. So that means like every segment we add on should expand the network, not just by that segment, but by the different versions you can do with that segment. So what that looks like is the first year, the brown is the road that goes up. We built Dinner at the In-Laws, which is our uphill that takes you all the way to the top. And then we built Heathcliff, which is the first section of downhill. So at the end of 2019, this is essentially what we had. You could ride up, do the little loop on the top, and then come down. 2020, we put in Funnel Cake and Freight Sanity, which now gave you a full loop at the farm. So you could do a full loop all the way around. All this was pretty roughed in at that point, especially Funnel Cake, until Dan came along. Dan's back there and turned it into Dan and Chris turned it into what it is today. 2021, kind of a slow year for us, mainly because we were rebuilding and building up everything with Dan's vision for how large berms can actually be. But we did put in Mud Muffin, which allows you to cut across. It's named that because it's always muddy. Those that have ridden up there will know it is always muddy, even when it's at its driest as last year. And then last year we added in Twisted Sister, and that little pink is the cutoff Tornado of Souls. We also came up with names last year. We didn't have names for up until last year. Highly secretive, but very inclusive voting to come up with these fantastic names. We're in the process of finalizing designs, and then Stark Mountain has generously offered to cut these signs. We will have some of the most ridiculous signs on the planet up there shortly, and by shortly I mean maybe by the end of the year. Right? That seems about right? Sure. Okay. So first off, a big thank you to everybody that's built. A good chunk of everybody in this room has been up there at some point. I think specifically, I want to call out Dan, who's here jumping, but Dan did quite a bit of work. Cool Motion Outdoor Sports has been a big supporter, but also Chris was up there swinging a Thor's axe for quite a while. It wasn't a hammer, it was a legit axe. You put in a lot of work. Avery Smith Construction has donated the use of the excavator multiple times. It's up there right now. So if you need work done, you need some excavation, look up Avery Smith, they're there for you. And then we've had dogs and people and kids, everybody up there. It's been a real community effort. One thing that I think is really interesting about this is we haven't actually really spent a dime on it. It has been all donations. We gave out gift certificates as a thank you, but Avery's refused money. Like, we've tried to pay him for the excavator and he will not take it. I would like to pay Dan. Dan will not take the money. So I think it just is a testament to this community. This is very much a trail system that is built by the community. And I think it shows it. It is different. When you ride our trails, the trails ride different than when you're on a fully manicured system. Like, they're tighter in places, the berms are a little bit different. It's that hand-built quality that you can't get without doing it that way. So thank you to everybody, and yeah, hope to see you up there building soon, and we're going to talk about that. A couple other things. I think what's really cool about building trails up is then you have a place to have events, and I like events and gatherings. We've done twice now what we call the Mob Blob, and it's where we've gone up to the trails. We did it first when we opened the pump track, and then last year when we opened up the new trail Twisted Sister. And it's a camp out. We light up the pump track. The kids come up there. We put up a movie screen. We play mountain bike videos. We have food. We just hang out, get chewed up by the mosquitoes and black flies, and have a good time. And it really is pretty unique. You can see here these kids, and once again, look at this technique right here. It's a Clark child, but it's Meredith's work. I mean, look at that. That's unbelievable. Your bartender's right here, by the way, Tim. Nice work, buddy. Look at that technique. That is phenomenal. Meredith didn't teach him that. We've also done second Saturday sessions. We did that for a year where that was a build then ride session. We've done nightly rides. To be honest, in the last couple of years, that's fallen off a bit. And it's one of the things I wanted to get people together is to get that going again. Get those community rides, get the community builds going again. And some photos from there. You can see, this is Chris. You can probably recognize the scream, laugh, terror in his face there. Might not be good enough high def. But just some photos from up there. I think it is, I love taking photos up at New Leaf. It's a really unique place to shoot photos as well. All right, the Five-Town Riders, and I think this is something, yes, woo! Last year, I'll be honest, I was a little down on everything. We weren't building a ton mid-year last year. And Meredith and Tim had the crew up at New Leaf training, the Five-Town Riders, which is our local team. And I went up there just to shoot some photos. And I sat on this corner right here. And I have to say, I walked away from there more energized than I've ever been to mountain bike. The kids in that team, and you'll get everything from super advanced, can ride way better than I'll ever ride, to just starting off, walking berms. They're all the most stoked kids you've ever seen, and I think it's a testament to what you can do when you build some trails and give people a place to go. And some of those kids, I don't think had bikes before, right? Like, there's a couple, yeah, this is, they can get into it, and what's great, like, I was never a star athlete in high school. Like, this sort of stuff is great. I got into snowboarding and mountain biking because it was something I could do, and it was just me against me and figuring it out on my own. I think it's great that we're able to provide this. To me, this is the whole goal. And I think it's a real testament to Meredith, to Tim, to Mike Steele, to Mary Yates, and a whole host of other people I'm probably forgetting, but they put together a really good program.
Julie Clark.
Julie Clark, too.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Make sure Silas how many kids do we got this year?
All right, so the first year that we did Five-Town Riders, we had a whopping 13. And then the next year, we had 36 racers. But we also had 5 extra kids that just didn't want to race, but they wanted to partake in the program all summer long. So that's a pretty big, I mean, that's more than half of double of the program.
And this year, it's looking like 40 plus, right?
I bet we'll probably hit 40. So.
And that's only 3 years it's been going on.
I gotta say, it's more than Five-Town Riders. We've got kids from Virgins, Heinsberg, Shoreham. So we're definitely, our outreach now is more of Addison County, which is pretty cool.
And they do ride in a number of different spots, but they call New Leaf their home. And if you can train at New Leaf, you're gonna do pretty well out there in the world. All right, so in tech, you take something from 0 to 1, now there's something. We have trails, we have a location you can go to, we've got a team now, we have some events. Now it's the next step of what we call one to N in the tech world, which means taking it to something even bigger. And that's really what I wanted to bring all of you together, is to figure out, how do we do that? Like, and in the tech world, there's certain people that can take you 0 to 1. It's definitely something I do in the tech world. It's something obviously I do in mountain biking. They're not necessarily the same people that take you from 1 to N to the next steps. Like, you need more organization. It can't just be, oh, I'm just gonna build this trail and then somebody will ride it, which is kind of the attitude I took a little bit on this one. Now we want to get a little bit more organized. We want to get the community involved more. We have something to build off of. We want to take the next steps. A couple key things to hit on. We are part of ACBC, which is Addison County Bike Club. We started off independent. We made the choice to join in with ACBC for a couple reasons. One was we get insurance through VIMBA for our volunteers. We get access to more grants through them. But also, my mind is, if you're taking that idea, if you want to make it inclusive and accessible, it should be that we're organized across Addison County. Part of ACBC is we have 2 board seats on ACBC right now. Tim Steele just took over my seat and is doing a much better job than I ever did, so he's a 1 to N guy now. Awesome work, Tim. And Meredith is also on ACBC, leading a lot of trying to take what we do in Bristol around camps, around the clinics, and expand that out to more of the overall ACBC reach. All right, so the 3 things we need, and I want to try to get you guys, I'm trying to motivate you guys to get involved with these 3 things. The first is we've got New Leaf Trail building. I'm going to show you what our build plan is. We need people that just want to build. So there's a handful of us that really like to get up there and swing an axe into rock and roots, and it's awful, but we love it. We need a few more people, but that's not going to be everybody. Like, that is not for everyone. We will do some scheduled trail building, but we're looking for a handful of people that want to build on a regular basis. And we'll get you connected with Dan in the back and Tim. They'll be leading the trail building stuff. Events and fundraising, I'm going to be taking the lead on that going forward with help from a bunch of different people, including the aforementioned Julie Clark. And then new trail zones. Meredith, I'm just electing her for this now, is going to lead that to an extent, but we need to get a strategy and an approach to go to new landowners and find new places to build, because we are maxing out what we can do at New Leaf. Contrary to what Skimmer believes. He believes we can put in a couple more miles, but we're getting close to the end on it. All right, let's start with the New Leaf Trail building. So here's our current map, except for I forgot to draw in the pump track, which is now there. There is a road, or existing road, that goes over like this. And this area right here is our primary area for building this year. And I made this super good visual because it's been difficult to explain this to people as I've gone through it. We're trying to build basically pump tracks on a vertical. And it's going to look something like this once we're done. So the idea is to maximize the vertical with tight berms and then rollers and jumps, and Dan told me a bunch of stuff they built up there this weekend that's probably scarier than I'd like, but that's what happens in Dan's building. But the idea is that we put this together and you maximize that vertical, and then eventually you can connect these together, and it's choose your own adventure down. So it becomes this very packed area of berms, rollers, and other things that Dan and Tim built. This is our primary area we'll be building this year. We've started in on it. Last weekend, the excavator was up there. Dan, what'd you say? How much is done?
About a third of the first trail.
Third first trail. We had 5 town riders were up there doing some build work with Tim. So basically, if we take it here, like, say there. Is that about right, Dan?
Yeah, about.
Sure. I did this from memory. It was. So the idea with the excavator is we get the excavator up there, we use that to cut it real quick, and then come behind it with shovels. It speeds it up, but you still get a bit of a hand-built feel to it. The next one that we're looking to put in, and this will be our most advanced trail. Are you ready, Skim?
It's the crowning achievement.
It is the crowning achievement. One of the real problems we have at New Leaf, or challenges, is there's a cliff band here. And there's really only one way to get down that we could find, which is where we built this trail. And you guys will know there's a couple really steep berms on it. There is a slot right over here that, depending on somebody's view, may require a net.
Downhill only.
It is definitely downhill only. It's got some questionable areas.
It's fine.
It's fine, yeah. But that's the other one we want to build. This one, no excavator, unless Dan's feeling really spicy. I still have PTSD from building up here, so it's struggled. The reason this hasn't gotten built yet is because it is hard work building up there. It is rocks, it's roots, there's very little dirt. I see you're nodding, Dane, you've been up there building before. But what will be nice is if you've been up there before, here to here is kind of a nice little flowy section. There's like these real quick little berms. The idea is to keep that momentum as far down as we can go, then come up to this overlook, and it's the nicest overlook on the New Leaf property, and then go through this little notch that's questionable. And once we have that, I won't say we're done building, but I think we'll have a pretty nice little network up there that you can connect in different ways, that you can get multiple miles out of. There is still over here and then down to the road, but it's pretty wet there. But these are our big ones. I think if we can get this done this year, that would be fantastic. If we can all live to see that get built and survive it, that would be fantastic too. So we're looking for some builders to take part in that. All right, events and fundraising. Events. For those that don't know, May 13th, this coming Saturday, right, is the Human Powered Parade starting at?
So it starts at 10 for you to show up to the rec field and decorate your bike or whatever wheel contraption that you're bringing. And then we'll gather together at 11 and do the route through town, which is pretty much Pine Street, over to Church Street, and then through the little alleyway onto the town green. We'll do some celebrations there, and then we'll hop back on our wheels and head back to the rec field for some music, some food, and ripping on the pump track and the skate park. And it's supposed to be really nice this Saturday, so it'll be a good day for it.
It's a fun time. If you haven't taken part in it, it's really a good time. Once again, I think it's a thing that really shows off Bristol as a community. ACBC monthly meeting is every third Tuesday of the month. This month, May 16th. I will not be there, sadly, but
It's at the Holly Hall.
It's at Holly Hall.
It's at the Holly Hall.
I'll be in India. But there will be others that'll be there. Tim and Meredith for sure. It is at Holly Hall this month, so it'd be awesome if you guys came out to it. To be honest, very rarely are there people that are not on the board at the ACBC meetings, and I think it'd be really good to show kind of Bristol's influence on it. Our experience with ACBC has been they've been nothing but accommodating. They put money into New Leaf last year. That's how we were able to build out the parking lot a little bit more, smooth out some of the potholes that have since come back. There's that one rock that scrapes my car every time. But
It's on the list.
it's on the list. No, they have been super accommodating. We also, and I forgot to mention this, through ACBC, got a grant this year with Ranch Camp to buy a snow dog, which is a grooming device for fat biking. So we expect next winter to put in a lot more fat biking trails at New Leaf and around the area. So it's been super helpful for us. It'd be great if you guys could show up at Holly Hall. I'll be, virtually in from Bangalore. May 20th is the ACBC Trail Day at New Leaf. So this is kind of the broad trail day where we bring in lots of people, theoretically, and do lots of good work. So that's another great one to come out to. This summer, there's multiple mountain bike camps that you can't read, but that's okay because almost all of them are sold out as far as I know.
That's true.
Is that correct? Yeah.
That's correct.
Meredith can tell you more about the mountain bike camps, but I think it's been awesome. Except for the fact that all these kids that I used to be better than are now way better than me. So when are we going to get the adult camp for Saturday?
It's coming.
We need it. All right, we've got some events to be planned. We want to have a fall mob blob camp out up at New Leaf. We're not doing a spring one, primarily because last year I got ate so much by the black flies. I said I'd never do a spring one again. So it'll likely be late September, early October. So we need to plan that. Like to get weekly rides going again, or bi-weekly, whatever it is, or monthly, something to get people up there. It is a really great place to gather because you can do rides and set up at the cabin in the middle and have a fire going, grill out, do whatever you want. Well, not whatever within reason. So there's something I want to get going. We don't have it going now. There's two other events that I didn't put on here because I wasn't sure how many people are going to show up and I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about them. So I will talk about them now. One is, we've done this informally. It's the Bristol Overland, where you start in town and go from here out to the pond on the logging trails, down to the pond, over to New Leaf, go drop off of New Leaf down to Hardscrabble, go across into Watershed, ride through Watershed, back to Plank, and then back to town. I'd like to do some version of that that's a slightly more organized, but still chaotic. So that's one that we have on the list. The other one that we've done informally, we call the Tour de Flow. Tour de Flow, which is going to multiple flow trails in Vermont and New Hampshire in one day. So what we did last year is we started at New Leaf, we rode it at dusk, dawn, we rode it at dawn. We went from there, I caught myself because you laughed. We went from New Leaf to Rochester. Some people chose to ride Rochester Ranger Station. Some strong people chose to ride Tunnel Ridge. We went from there to Green Woodlands in New Hampshire. We rode there. And then we went from there to Little River and rode Little River. All in one day. And it's just it's a really fun day. We'd like to do that as a little bit more official and give people a few different options. And then instead of starting at New Leaf, we would finish at New Leaf and have a gathering there at the end. So those are the two events that I had in mind, but open to anything and everything that people have on their minds. Fundraising, we have one primary way that we raise money right now. We have used this in a bunch of different places. It's Bottles for Bikes. There's a cage at Vermont Bike Tours out on your way to New Leaf. It needs to be rebuilt. That's what Julie Clark told me. We have some money to put towards that. We also just recently, through Julie's begging of Adam, that we are good to donate directly at Bristol Redemption. I'm going to build a poster around that. We do need some people that could hopefully jump in on this and help out with fundraising. We are going to need more and more money to put on events and to start building more and more trails. New trail zones. Now, I just left this open, but I'll talk through kind of what I've learned over the years. When we started off, like I said, I had this vision, and a lot of us shared it, of a Kingdom Trails-esque network, which is really impressive when you're up there, but you guys have all seen, or if you haven't, they've had some struggles recently with losing big chunks out of it. What I actually think is a really interesting way to build trails is actually build a New Leaf type center of trails and connect it to another center with single track. So if you think New Leaf is thereabouts, if we had another New Leaf-esque system right here with a way to get between it and a way to get here to that, and then if we could get in on this land, another one over there, now you have something that you could go and ride quickly after work, which is what a lot of us, I think we're all local here. It would be great if we could leave Bristol and go ride a trail really quickly and get an hour in. But then on the weekend, if you want to do a bigger loop, you could ride out, do one, go to New Leaf, go to the next one, and come back and have a full day. And that's kind of the vision that I really like now, is trying to find some land that is reasonably close to where New Leaf is, within, say, 5 to 10 miles, that you could put in another New Leaf style area. But this, once again, is a place where we need a lot of help. It's been tough to find new zones to build in. And I think we've got to be a little bit more strategic about it and be able to come to people and say, here's what we're doing for the community, and here's what we'll do for you. For New Leaf, it's basically been a parking lot is what we did for them. And now we'll be putting in a kiosk this year that will have a lot about the farm. We really want people to go to the farm stand, but looking at what can we do for a landowner to make it beneficial for them. And that's it. If you didn't sign up for the newsletter, sign up for the newsletter. We're here for another half hour. I'd love, if people want to get involved, I've got sign-ups for the 3 areas: building at New Leaf, fundraising and events, and trying to find new trail zones. And I think what I open it up to is, do people have comments, questions, thoughts right now? And then we can break up and kind of discuss with beers or your beverage of choice.
Is it like mostly private landowners in those areas you were talking about? Or what kind of owners are we talking about?
There's very little public land around here. The only public land that I know of, well, there is some. Meredith knows better. I mean, the big tract is the Wilderness South Mountain, but you can't build anything there. Most of it is private landowners. A good chunk of it is A. Johnson. And to date, they have not, I mean, I think A. Johnson's been incredibly accommodating to the community. What we have up here at Deerleaf is phenomenal. It's probably the best kept secret in all of Vermont. They have not been open to building sanctioned mountain bike trails to date. But I think that it's on us to show that it can be done well and that it can be beneficial to the community.
Seth, Porter emailed earlier today, and she had a couple ideas of where to build new trails, and those ideas are Memorial Park. The town owns some land. Memorial Park, get down the mountain from there.
Yep.
Which we haven't looked at yet. Maybe we can put that on the agenda to look at that. And then she said the Green Mountain Campground folks would be interested in developing some trails.
Yes.
That would be a good one.
Green Mountain Campground would be good. I think Memorial Park, you've looked
Yeah,
at.
so I hiked it with Porter. It's 15 acres on a hill, so it'd be a lot of benching. And then there's a private landowner who was fine with us putting in a section, because his property kind of comes down into Memorial Park area. So yeah, it's just, that would be a lot of work. And the first big thing is that bridge is out.
Is that
The big, yeah, that bridge has been out for a couple of years
Weren't they
now.
gonna there was a time when they were gonna use that temporary bridge on 116 near River Park there.
They were gonna grab that one, and then there was another time they were gonna grab a bridge from Middlebury College, so, and just nothing's happening. It's very difficult, that area is so rocky, and the water, I mean, it is amazing, but, it's gonna take the town and the town administrator and a few other folks to really be able to set something up, so we can have access to it.
Yeah.
But it should always be on the table.
Yep.
Has anybody walked the campground? Because I knew they had some infrastructure back in the day where they had put some trails in there. It was multi-use trail, but they the last owners were trying to push it as mountain biking. It's like $5 a day or whatever, you can cross country it, but I know they have some infrastructure.
Well, I'm down for calling them tomorrow. If anybody else wants to, you know, we'll set up an appointment with them and they
You
can
guys
walk
all
with us.
heard, Meredith is leading this.
I'm definitely interested in that.
Where's
Campground?
Green Mountain Campground?
Down 116.
Oh, okay, go ahead, that, yeah.
It's
And it
actually,
works
it's great
in-
potential.
Yeah,
that rate.
and it works a little bit in my, because there has been discussion at ACBC about could you potentially connect Bristol into Middlebury eventually? And that gets you some of that way there. It's in semi the right direction. And that's kind of works to that idea of single track, maybe multi-use single track, connecting into zones is kind of the way, I think is the way to build out.
I mean, it could be almost like a little river. They might charge us, I don't know, if it's $5, but if they get wrapped into ACBC, maybe you get a discount on your membership, or you get, because you're ACBC, you get a free ride there. It's so much, that, you know, like, there's so many ideas.
Well, and like some of the connectors, speaking of that, like my neighbor across the street, he rides snowmobiles. He was talking about putting new trails across state for town lands. It's gotta be almost a multi-use trail.
Yep.
But that connector trail, that we can get buy-in from Middlebury and Bristol to be a connector, and it is a multi-use trail, whether it's horse, whether it's snow skiing in the winter time, and, you know, like, whatever. You might have easier buy-in.
And I think the easier buy-in is also to make it ADA. I wanna push that.
Yes.
I think any new trails these days really should be ADA, so everybody enjoys it.
The one that we've been after for a while, and I don't know if anybody would know, is to get from here to the pond. And there is multiple landowners in between, I think it's 4 or 5 total.
Yes.
But if we could get a multi-use and then potentially 100 acres in the middle of that, which there is 100 acres, that you could then build out a zone in, I think that gets you to what I've always wanted selfishly is that I can get on my bike at my house and ride dirt all the way out, which you can do. I know, Silas, you know how to do it better than most. But it would be great if I could ride out at lunch and do a quick adrenaline-fueled ride.
Access is interesting there, like
real estate you're talking about, like above the camps on the pond, is that's like the camp says.
Yeah,
It's a wrong, it's a private, I mean,
It's a private road out, right?
yeah, but
it is a private road, so
rocky,
you have.
rocky and steep and full of logger detritus.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that it's not a possibility, but I think something like closer to the middle, like access to like on Heath or even Heath Road, which goes
Mhm.
out to Bristol Electronics.
Right, right.
That would be the jumping off point where I think you would be amenable to creating that. We just need Dave Johnson seal of approval on there, which I don't think is insurmountable.
That was my, I'm kind of new to this, but I was curious what the history is of interaction with Dave Johnson.
It's been pretty limited. I think Porter has had most of it. We reached out via ACBC last year to Bill, but never got any farther than a few emails. So we haven't we haven't had a chance to really make a case. Part of that was, and to be fair, it was word of mouth to an extent. We felt like we had to do something to show this is what we're building, and now we have that. So
I mean, the whole South Mountain potential, almost all the way down to Heinsberg.
it's
On the east side of South Mountain, there's those snowmobile trails that go all the way down to Heinsberg.
Yeah.
You can almost ride those all the way to Heinsberg and Lake when it's really dry.
There's a lot of potential.
The potential is like incredible.
So
Yeah.
Dave Johnson has been approached by Porter and me a couple different times, and basically because of their logging operation, they're concerned of two things really. One thing is that people don't like to see trees cut down, even though they do sustainable harvesting and they do a great job at it. If people see logging, they start. Certain people have a different opinion on how to maintain forests. And so, let's just call them tree huggers. And so, I get it, I get kind of both arguments, but I know that it's good for the forest to sustain it. And they do a great job at it, but he doesn't want to, the company doesn't want to be judged. They don't want to be judged for that because they're doing just fine business, and if there's a mountain bike trail, they bring more attention to that. And then the other thing is the safety aspect. And the safety aspect is if they are logging in the forest and there's a mountain biker coming through, he can quickly come up onto a logging operation and there could be some concern for safety. So those are the two things that they've told Porter. And when I asked Ken, he comes into the shop with his bikes, and when I asked him, he said he'd give it some thought, basically.
Yes.
But, so I don't think they're absolutely against it. They enjoy recreating themselves, and Ken is a big bicyclist. He does bikes for every season. We'll see how it goes. I think it's gonna take some time to kind of massage the idea.
I think one of the things to the first point is if we could if we were able to get access, I think part of it would be putting up educational kiosks about this is what the logging operation is, this is why it's good, and be able to combat that one as much as we can. I know the other one that people out west have faced is you build up this beautiful trail and you have to log it and it smashes a berm, and then there's this negative publicity about it, like they wrecked our trail. I think that it's all stuff we can get around. I think it's just being smart about how we go to them and say this is what we have to do. And it was really tough to do when there was nothing before. Now we have something we can point to and say, look, we got a whole team that's using this. We just want more for the community. So I think there's a better approach we can take now that we have something to lean on.
One approach would be to find, like, A. Johnson has in-house foresters that are doing these long-term plans, working with a forester that has this long-term plan, and be like, okay, where could we navigate through here?
Yeah, and even if it was set up, because those plans are, be like, all right, this year, this whole trail system shut down for logging.
Like Chris says, it takes
Yeah.
a lot of massage.
It takes a-
Well, I think too, like, if you think about those areas, there are places that are not going to be logged.
Yeah.
They're not loggable.
No, that's what I think about. I think about that bridge.
Yeah.
So targeting those zones.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Um,
Sounds like we got a couple people that want to sign up when we do
Yeah.
trails.
Right.
I got Dave, I got Silas, Chris, you're always on it.
Another thing I wanted to add is that Lincoln Sports is working with, I forget the trail builder, but there, and I talked to you about it before.
Yeah.
Anybody else who's feeling community minded and wanting to come to things in terms of connecting. They're trying to put 2 miles in there behind the rec field. I know that's a big pedal if you're gonna go from New Leaf up there, but anyway, community building is going on.
Well, there was discussion that if you could get over probably that south and then get up here, there's a trail system that is off the map there. You could get there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't take much. Any other thoughts?
Be great. I just have one. From the people on the ground at the farm, mainly Jill and farm workers that are there all day long, the traffic is insane for the amount of people that come up, even like in the middle of the day to ride. Having a kiosk there to capture, she's like, I see new cars every single day, like new people coming that somehow find out about New Leaf, mainly because it's like the driest place right now. She's like, it's amazing the folks that come out there that never seen before.
Yeah.
So it'd be really cool to just plant a bug in their ear about, somehow connecting with that trail system that they somehow figured out that exists. That's a big one.
Yeah, yeah. If only I knew somebody that wanted to build a kiosk.
I think they did like a nice post and day with like harsh 45 races. I know somebody's doing it.
Yeah.
No, we're long overdue for trail signs, for kiosk, for just basic signs on how to get up to New Leaf. If you found it, you're one of the chosen that realized that you weren't trespassing when you drove through the road. So yeah, we're long overdue for that. And I think it is a big deal because we're putting a lot of people onto that land. We should be giving some back and letting those people.
Is your QR code somewhere up there, like on the cabin or?
Yeah.
We don't even have like signs, let alone QR codes. We're working on it. All right. Anybody that wants to help out, come up and sign up, get some stickers from CMOs, tip your bartender. We're here for, I've got the keys, so. Let's say 15 minutes to half an hour, 4 o'clock.